and we will continue to update you. Now, joining me this morning is Dr. Alexandria Strattyner. She's a psychologist who helps teens and kids, and also joining us this morning is Dr. Rose Borda. Dr. Borda is a social studies supervisor for the Hicksville Public Schools. We're going to be talking about the conversations that we are having with our children, and really, I guess to make sure that we get it right as parents. So I guess first we're going to start with Dr. Strattyner, if you would. Some of the anxiety or internal turmoil that parents might feel witnessing this, but then the conversations that they have with their kids who might then feel unsafe seeing some of this. How do we navigate this?
Navigating this. So given that most of the time kids are going to be of elementary school age, maybe preschool age, up through teens and college years when navigating, you sort of want to separate out that elementary school group, the younger children, from the older children and approach it a little bit differently. Regardless of age, children do know what's going on. With younger children, you do want to limit a little bit how much you're watching different, news coverage of this, because it can be overwhelming. And because kids don't always really understand what's happening, but they can tell that there's something going on that's scary, and they may not know that it's not happening right now. But with those younger kids, we want to ask them, what do you know about what's going on? How is it making you feel? And we want to reassure them that they're safe. With our older teens and of course college age students who may be home right now, we can have more involved discussions. Teens and young adults of those ages have more of an ability to engage with this intellectually and to talk about things in a more adult way around what's going on. And most importantly, in the age of social media, we really want to make sure that the information that our kids are getting is accurate, so that they don't feel unnecessarily more afraid than they need to feel right now.
And I think that's kind of important, Dr. Borda, in making sure that we give the appropriate responses, but also, as we heard Senator Schumer say, we're living through history, but some of these images are harder to explain to our children. So what's your best advice on this?
Oh, well, I think today our teachers really are pausing their instruction to talk about what happened yesterday. They have to know what happened yesterday. Why was the Capitol building placed on lockdown? And they have to know, what in looking at this story, what are the teachers are going to use this as an opportunity for discussion, and how do they feel about the photographs? How do they feel about the news clip? And in fact, what we're doing is we're also showing the students the reaction of the senators when they reconvened. And for example, we have from C-SPAN a news clip of Ben Sasse, Republican senator from Nebraska, and he goes back into history, and he talks to on the Senate floor about the peaceful transition between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. In 1801, John Adams lost the election to Thomas Jefferson, and he went back home to Massachusetts. And he says that was a gift, John Adams. In his loss, he gave the American people a gift, an example to follow that we have been following ever since. So that's very important for the students to hear that from the senators themselves, and that's what we've been able to put together to bring up this for this discussion in the classroom.
I thought it was interesting in my own house. My son's in the 4th grade, and he's been learning about the colonists. And so he was saying to me, Mom, when is the last time that something like this happened? And they want to learn, and they want to know, and they want to put this into a historical context.
Yes, no, absolutely. And actually, something like this has never happened in our history. And that's why it's important today to really have this discussion with our students, to know that this has never happened and it's not in the American tradition. And the students have to understand, they have to react. Another aspect that we're doing is we're looking at the First Amendment And we're looking, is what the protesters did yesterday an example of them expressing their First Amendment right? Our kids need to discuss that and to think about that as whether this is the democratic way in the United States.
I'm also wondering about that 25th Amendment. I think that's going to probably, throughout this news cycle today, be a conversation. So if you, if you were parents who proudly, flew a Trump flag and your kids know who you voted for, how should those conversations, unwrap?
Well, I think first of all, we have to educate what is the 25th Amendment. And how that would work. And I think that's the discussion that they're having right now in the news media. I mean, there's several editorials from various newspapers that are actually asking for the 25th Amendment. But that's a discussion that we have to have with the students. Where is this a cause? Is this the removal of a president of the United States? That has never happened in American history. So again, that's a discussion that we can discuss with our students in the class, and it's very important to have that discussion. But they have to understand the historical consequences of that and what happened. And most important, they have to understand what happened yesterday. That is not the right approach. That is not when we disagree with the election results. And also, I just want to say that another one, I really, listening to the speeches of the senators last night was inspiring. And another speech that we are showing our students is Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney's speech, he's a Republican from Utah, and he talks about that this election was not rigged. It's a matter of speaking the truth when we disagree to people, and that's what I think. That was a very powerful speech. It was a short speech, but it was a powerful speech to tell these supporters, we know you're upset, but this was not a rigged election. Biden won this election. And the job yesterday of Congress was simply to certify and to count the Electoral College votes and to certify election. Any issue with any election is decided at the state level. And all of that has been decided in courts. Right. So there is no issue here. So we need to discuss that process. We need to speak to the students about, how our democratic process works. So this is also a civic lesson that is very important to have at every level, at the elementary, middle school, and high school.
And Dr. Strattyner, I'm wondering too about when you're having these conversations, watching how you're labeling things, talking about possibly actions being wrong as opposed to people being bad.
Absolutely. I think it is very important to think about the language that we're using to discuss this with our children. And it's also important to let them know, especially knowing that we're reaching the Westchester and some of the rest of the tri-state area. It's very important to let them know that they are safe where they are. People got hurt yesterday. So when it comes to, and kids who see that on TV at a certain age, they're not discriminating between the fact that that's not happening near their home. They don't understand that difference when they're very young. So it's important that they know that they are safe, that mom and dad, or mom and mom, or dad and dad, or whoever the guardians are going to keep them safe. And as far as that language goes, yeah, when it comes to seeing people get hurt, we can talk about the fact that we never want to see anybody get hurt, and that this came about because of political unrest, and then have a discussion about what is the accurate information. As Dr. Borda said, we know that this is an election that President-elect Biden won, and to help the kids understand what the facts are, because there's so much misinformation going around that can be so anxiety provoking.
And Dr. Borda, I'm just wondering, when you spoke with the teachers in your district, did you come up with a game plan of the context of this conversation for the classroom?
Oh, absolutely. We were texting and emailing last night because all the teachers, we knew that today this had to be discussed. We had to stop whatever we were doing to talk about what happened yesterday in the classroom. So we have a game plan. Our game plan was, first of all, to discuss, what happened. And then from then on, we had some video clips in the news, and really to make it a discussion day.
All right, thank you both for joining us and giving us, some insight into, the conversations we'll be having going forward.